Have you ever thought about what you'd do if you just stumbled upon a fortune? I'm not talking about winning the lottery. I mean, what if you found millions of dollars in a pile of garbage? Well, today, we've got an incredible story about a man who did exactly that, and trust me, what happened next will make you question everything.
So let's meet our main character, Salim. To everyone in his village, he was just useless. He was a scavenger, the kind of guy kids would mock in the street. He was so poor that his own wife and children had left him years before. I mean, this guy was the definition of rock bottom, all alone in a hut that was barely standing.
For Salim, every single day was the same old grind. Wake up before dawn and start sifting through trash. But one morning, his stick hits something different. It's a sack, but it's weirdly clean and heavy, really heavy. So he drags it to the side. His curiosity just a little bit piqued.
He gets the knot untied, and as the bag falls open, his whole world just stops. It's full, completely full of brand new 500 rupee notes. You can just imagine his hands trembling as he touches them, trying to figure out if this is even real. This wasn't just some cash, it was an absolute ocean of money.
And the sheer scale of what he found is just mind-blowing. He did a rough count, and he figured it was somewhere between 30 and 40 crore. Now, to put that in perspective, that's about 300 to 400 million rupees. This wasn't just a lucky break. This was the kind of fortune that could rewrite his entire life and, honestly, the history of his whole village.
But back in his little hut, with the door bolted shut, Salim wasn't celebrating, not at all. He was terrified. You see, this discovery immediately kicked off this intense battle inside his head, a war between two really powerful opposing forces, fear and hope.
On one side, you've got this paralyzing fear. I mean, whose money is this? Some corrupt politician? A gangster? What if they come looking for it? But then, on the other side, a lifetime of impossible dreams suddenly felt possible. He could finally get medical care, build a real home, and maybe, just maybe, earn a little bit of dignity.
And his very first decision wasn't about greed at all, it was about desperation. He went to a clinic for an illness he'd been suffering with for years, and for the first time in his life, instead of being brushed aside, the doctor treated him with respect. It's a fascinating look into what drives us, right? His first purchase wasn't a luxury item, it was a little bit of dignity. So that little bit of newfound hope, it sparks a total transformation. Salim realizes this money could be a kind of test, and he decides he's going to be smart, he's going to be methodical, and he's going to be incredibly careful about how he uses it.
He never once flaunted his wealth. He started small. First, he just fixed the leaky roof of his hut. Then, he opened a tiny little grocery store. That store grew, so he bought a small warehouse, then a truck, and pretty soon, he was a supplier. And the villagers, the same ones who used to dismiss him, they started calling him Salim Lal out of respect. It just goes to show you, status isn't just about what you have, it's about what you build.
But you know how these stories go. Just as Salim is finally finding his footing, building this new life piece by piece, his past comes rushing back. And not just in one way, but in two completely separate crises that threaten to tear down everything he's worked so hard for.
I mean, just picture this. He comes home after a long day of work, and there they are. The family that walked out on him when he had absolutely nothing, now just standing on his doorstep. His kids are older, his wife is in tears, saying they made a terrible mistake.
And that's the question that just burned inside him. After all those years of being abandoned, were they really back because they missed him or because they saw the shine of his new money? It was a question that just ripped open all those old wounds.
He makes a really difficult but very firm decision. He tells them, yes, he will fulfill his duty as a father. He'll pay for his children's education, he'll make sure their future is secure. But to his wife, he says the trust between them is broken forever. It's a powerful reminder that while money can solve a lot of problems, it can't always fix a broken heart.
So just as he's wrestling with all this emotional turmoil, a second, way more dangerous crisis hits. One night, he's just sitting there watching the news, kind of half listening, when a breaking story comes on that makes his blood run cold.
And there it was, his absolute worst fear, confirmed. The news anchor was reporting that a thief, while being chased by police, had stashed a huge amount of stolen money from a local politician. The thief got caught, but the money? It was still missing. It had to be his sack.
And this is where the true danger of his situation becomes crystal clear. The anchor mentioned that hundreds of crores were still missing, a number way, way bigger than what Salim had even found. This meant his sack was just a tiny fraction of a much larger, much dirtier pile of money. The walls were definitely closing in.
But you know what? This terror doesn't break him. Instead, it forces him to face a much deeper question. If this money is tainted, what is its real purpose? And that fear actually leads him down a brand new path, one where he starts to share his wealth.
Right around this time, he meets a woman named Saloni. She was a kind, gentle widow from a nearby village who had also known her share of hardship. And crucially, she saw Salim for who he was, a hardworking man, not for the money he had. She offered him something simple and genuine, companionship. When he finally confided in her about his past, she didn't judge him at all. Instead, she gave him these words of wisdom, which gave him the strength he so desperately needed. In Saloni, he found a true partner, and they decided to get married.
So with this new life and this new perspective, Salim makes a monumental decision. He decides that this tainted money has to be cleansed, and the only way to do that is to use it for the good of other people. He starts by funding the complete renovation of the crumbling village mosque. Then he announces his biggest project yet. He's going to build a school where every poor child can get an education completely free.
And with these actions, Salim's transformation is finally complete. The villagers don't see the useless scavenger anymore. They don't even just see Salim Lal the businessman. They see a benefactor, a leader in their community, a man who, after being given a second chance, is now giving that same chance to hundreds of others. And the story doesn't even end there. Using the rest of that money as seed capital, Salim just kept investing, trading, and building his businesses. He became a legitimately wealthy man in his own right, earning billions through his own sweat and hard work. He even bought his first wife and children a home and a business in London, making sure they were taken care of too.
And that brings us to the final, fascinating question at the very heart of Salim's story. He built a new life, he lifted up his entire community, he educated countless children, all with money that was stolen from a corrupt politician. It was this weird cycle of wrongdoing that ultimately produced an incredible amount of good. So it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Can a right ever truly be born from a wrong?